What's up, everybody? I hope you guys are doing well. I know it's been a hectic start to the month of September, at least for us, the Williams residents. Kids are back to school, and the calendar got absolutely jam-packed with the youth sports situation. We're in soccer, we're in basketball, we're in dance, we're in all the things. I wouldn't want it any other way. The evenings have been absolutely cooked, and also it's starting to get darker earlier every day, which I'm a little bit upset and sad about that. But there is some good energy out there. Ryder Cup is next week. I'll be in New York City. We're doing the Skratch Clubhouse. If you haven't seen that yet, go on social, look at Skratch, look at my profiles. We kind of break down what the Skratch Clubhouse is. We're really excited about that. This has been a common conversation that we've had rattling in the back of a lot of our heads internally, of bringing something physical to consumers, to fans, to the community of golf, outside of the ropes of the traditional sport. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I know the first 100 in the door Friday morning, there's supposed to be some pretty epic giveaways, so that's going to be really dope. Also, the brands that we curated are going to be really special too. So we tried to think about intentionally who was going to be there, make sure they complement each other really well, and also provided a really good experience. So we're going to be out there for hours, and it's going to be a good time. I can't wait. I'm pumped. I think I land on Wednesday and then fly back home Saturday. So a lot of these trips are usually pretty quick for me because I got kids, and like I said, a bunch of obligations that I have to keep track of as a dad. But I can't wait to get out there. But this week's episode, long time coming, is with Robert Brunner of Devereux Golf, the co-founder. Such a unique story. This podcast could have easily been 3 hours. Devereux brand, a lot of people may not be familiar with, has been around for a really long time. The early state of the brand is way different than the brand we see today that's based out of Arizona. A really unique story. Robert's a really good dude. He's super passionate about the space. And I think out of that conversation, I know personally that I feel like the brand doesn't get the love and appreciation that it deserves, especially with just how noisy the space is. It's a really good episode. I'm so happy we were able to sit down and chat. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. First off, I'm so pumped. This, I think a lot of people aren't familiar with like some of the early days of Devereux. And I think like just as a fan of the brand, like being able to go through and have an opportunity to like be close to it. I think there's, at least from my point as a fan and also just as a consumer too in the space, it feels like Devereux has gone through like 3 different eras. That era that started in 2014 that ran through 2019 is like very different from the Devereux we see today. Especially in like 2020 through 2023, that felt like a pivot, like a refocus time. And then these last 2 years, it felt like Devereux has like really found its home, both visually and just like what you guys are doing in product too, and how you show up from a storytelling perspective. But obviously golf was very different in 2013, that first era of Devereux. What do you think the brand was like a mirror of you and your brother Will in those like pivotal years, like that 2013, 2019 or 2014 through 2019 era, a mirrored version of like the lifestyle that you guys were living at the time?
Yeah, I think that goes with like fashion just in general. I think it all is just a mirror of the lifestyle that you're living at a time. So, I mean, golf in 2013 is totally different from today in 2025 when we entered the space. You know, Travis Matthew was the behemoth of the lifestyle young audience. And, you know, I think that's the brand that got me really into the space of golf and to think about it from, you know, a fashion or apparel standpoint. And since then, it's been just complete evolution of how we play the game and how we represent ourselves.
And visually, like even from a product standpoint too, obviously I said it's very different, but my take, I worked at Macy's for a few years out of college. Like it was very Alfani for people who are like familiar with that Macy's exclusive brand. Again, very different from where we are today. Like, do you think you were building the brand around the version of golf that existed then? Or was there anything from like a design standpoint that you guys wanted to do, but obviously like pressure of the space kind of funneled you in a specific direction?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is like the business of, you know, what happens in golf fashion or just this industry itself. You know, we started out with the vision that we wanted to bring like a lifestyle apparel brand that was really rooted in like resort and vacation golfing. And then I think, you know, being young in the industry, we let a lot of the wholesale dictate our identity. unfortunately. So we went through this moment where we were really just designing for wholesale, for green grass stores, resorts and country clubs. And I think we lost a lot of our personality in those years of designing, just chasing the dollar, just to keep, lights on, doors open here. The business it's a tough one to master, but those early years, it was way different, right? The social media presence really wasn't there. Getting your brand out, it didn't have the punch that it has now to talk about it and be unique or cool. That voice wasn't really happening in the space at that time. It was still very conservative. So we were really just on that pitch of providing a brand that was in the realms of golf at that time, and doing all we could do to get wholesale accounts. It was really fun, but also it's really stressful.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting you bring that up, because the social credit, like you said, just didn't exist to the capacity it does today. And like, your guys' hustle was different too. Like, you're at those PGA summits and PGA shows. Like, what do you think a lot of that influence came from a buyer's perspective, what people were asking for, and then everyone else that was on the floor too, in terms of how product looked and colors and cuts and shapes?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I think if you look back at like 2013, if you look back at like probably your photos on Instagram or anything, we all dress very differently than how we are dressing today. So I feel like, style was dictated way differently. You had joggers, you had pants that were a little more rolled up. There was things that were just different in the space that are kind of, taboo today, I would say, in men's styling. And that really dictated a lot. Also, I think what dictated like a lot of our style and progression at that time was really just trying to chase the business, unfortunately. And, that's a hard thing as an entrepreneur. You start out, you want to do one thing, but I feel like sometimes you have to chase a little bit of business, not that that's right, until you get to a point where you feel comfortable really just kind of showcasing yourself and your true identity out there. That took us a long time here at Devereux to kind of find that groove and what our voice really was. I think our intention when we started was just to be a new, younger brand, fresh in the industry. I have a big passion for, fashion itself, and I wanted to get in golf because of my father. It's something that we share. It's like a sacred ground for us. So we share that, and that's why I really wanted to get into that space and showcase a visual identity that was different. And it's honestly ever evolving from my standpoint of being in this business for 12 years, from 2013 to today, just progression of golf, honestly. And it's been a remarkable ride to see golf in itself grow more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you were also based in LA too when you started the brand. Like, how much of regionally where you at location-wise like influenced what you guys were trying to do?
Yeah, I would say when we started, it was just two of us. My brother lived in Texas. I lived in Los Angeles because I was just finishing up design school out there. So I started when I was still in school. And that was just, me being young, wanting to be in a spot that I viewed as something that, people looked up to in terms of apparel and fashion. I wasn't there too long after we started it, probably about a year and a half, 2 years. And then, we made Phoenix our home. We had a lot of intrigue to be out here in this place, and really the golf scene gravitated towards us. Plus, being in the Southwest, we're both from Texas. So I think still have our identity rooted in, our Western culture that we grew up around. It was really important to us.
What year did you move to Phoenix?
2015.
Oh, so it was
10
pretty
years out here.
Okay. So it was relatively quick after you started the brand, at least.
Yeah, when you're paying California taxes, you tend to get out faster.
Yeah, it's very different. There's some extra motivation. Do you think when you, I guess from like an influence and inspiration standpoint, either living in LA or just, again, what else was happening in golf at that time, was there anything outside of the sport that you guys were gravitating towards?
Oh, outside that, yeah. There was a big kind of uproar of athletic trend around that time that was really popular, especially with like hybrid shorts, fabrics that went from like land to sea, and all the hybrid fabrications that were great for the golf course that, Travis Matthew was placing well. Then you had brands like Link Soul Startup that was also placing these things well. So we were really really trying to be a brand that positioned ourselves in these performance fabrics at the end of the day, and offering, you know, a good robust material for people to pull from. And I think that's just where fashion was at that time period, before it got really personalized for golf. Because before then there was only one person leading the charge, and that was TM at the time, and they were telling stories and doing creative things, and had a hell of a roster of golfers on it, which was remarkable. And I think they forever changed that landscape to what it is today. You know, and we were just trying to hop on coattails of that at the time.
Did you do any like internships or anything throughout college, or that first year that you had graduated? No. You were just straight cold start?
Yeah, I think you have to be like a little bit arrogant to start a brand in a way. You really got to believe that you can do it. So yeah, I just cold started it. You know, knowing what I know now, it would have been nice to have a little more time to season.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to ask. Like, knowing what you know, just even over these last few years, you guys have like found your new home. Was there anything that was super rough in the beginning in terms of learning curve?
I would say everything. Like if we're being frank about it, I look at the golf landscape today, and there's lots of brands that just pop up and start. You know, I'm a person that started a brand, and it's been in the space of what a golf brand is, and it's hard. You know, it's hard from every aspect of running a business. You know, from just hiring people to, you know, figuring out sourcing, development, getting product on time, making sure it's in the price range that you want to be in, making catalogs, photos, anything that goes into it. I mean, it is an overdrive, extra hours of commitment and dedication to what you're doing. And, you know, it's not for the faint of heart. It's extremely difficult, and it takes all your time. My brother and I, you know, we don't come from a position of our background of fashion at all. We grew up oil and gas industry in West Texas, so everything we've learned is all trial and error learns, and that's really been the fun of a lot of things, and it's been the hardest pills to swallow. But you know, we were kind of raised to like do it ourselves mentality, and you know, that's where we find ourselves today. But there's a lot of hurdles when starting a business or a brand. You know, finding yourself, I think, is one of the hardest things, because what you want isn't necessarily what, you know, is dictated out there when it comes to business. Money talks at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you build like, I don't know, a more like richer, more intimate experience with it too, where the details start to matter because you're so connected to it at every like point along the process. Like, do you think that there was, especially when you moved to Phoenix, like, was there any like aha moments where you're like, this isn't us, but these are the things that we want to explore now that we're a few years in and we have our footing in terms of how we want to go about things?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always think there's aha moments, but then they kind of backfire, and there's never really aha moments. It's interesting to say that. I think when we moved out to Phoenix, and we were really just getting involved in establish. We had one goal when we moved out to Phoenix, and that was establish a community in golf and be a known golf brand out here. And I like to simplify the goals when we have those, to make them achievable, and so we can reach these things. And that was our primary goal. I think what we were doing at that time, but this is all pre-COVID, right? So the pre-COVID industry was way different. We didn't really have a direct-to-consumer audience at all. You didn't have a big spur in that at the moment. So all our product, everything that was made for that wholesale account, for that door, and that was all replicated based on what that wholesale account was actually selling. You know, if it was micro prints, if it was loud prints, whatever, we were building that. I think we started finding our stride in the business just before COVID. We had a lot of wholesale doors, like north of like 200, and we were just learning the business of giving quality product on time and establishing a younger audience to this product and apparel. But the reality of that was I was dissatisfied, and so was my brother. I mean, he's less, I think, attached to the design and the look of the brand than I am, because that's more my role. But I was really like dissatisfied because I wasn't being true to myself and really where I come from as a person and a designer in the space. And you know, COVID kind of worked in our favor. It happened, and it gave us this kind of a pathetic excuse to dip out of wholesale and recreate what we're doing. I think we fractured a little bit of business in that sense, but at the end of the day, we wanted to serve ourselves and fulfill our identity of why we were actually doing this, and it was a good time to reset for that.
It's so interesting because it's almost like you guys got like your postgrad or master's in a way in how to run a business through the realities, like with real life consequences and real life wins that you can't necessarily get in like a school structure, where every decision, again, just going back to like how important the little details are and the relationships that you have. Like, I think in a way, because you guys started when you started, it put you in a unique advantage that when COVID did hit, you guys had a pretty good, I would assume, understanding of just operationally how to run a business, how to hire, how to get accounts seen and whatnot, especially without the pressure of social credit. Because again, I do think that a lot of these brands that pop up have this like mood board or where they're trying to story tell the process of building the brand as opposed to like learning how to run a business, which is two very different things.
Yeah, very.
And going back to what I said earlier, the way that you guys hustled was so different, which is really interesting.
We're still hustling.
Yeah, every day. I mean, now it's a
It's the
completely
fun
different
of it,
era.
man.
That's why I go back to a different era.
Yeah, it's the fun of it, though.
Like, how do you think those less social years, we can call it, teaching you and your brother of what you didn't want Devereux to be, because you didn't have to show up in social the capacity that you have now, which I think does take people in different directions because the noise is so much louder.
Yeah, I think it taught us to really just trust ourselves. I think when we entered this space, we lacked a lot of confidence because we've never been in that space. And we could kind of get pushed around by, opinions and takes on apparel and whatnot from buyers or, any type of critics. I feel like we chased a little bit of certain things. The moment is really, I think with all businesses starting out, is I think you come to a point where you have a do or die moment and you say, okay, let's commit to this and see what happens. Worst case scenario, you don't have a brand at the end of the day, but you're still fine. You can go off and do amazing things. So we had that moment where we both just committed to visually telling a story how we play golf and how we perceive golf and what brings out the good for us in this sport. And that, it's one thing to say that, it's another to do that. But we put a lot on the line to really trust ourselves and trust the vision. And what came of that was, we hired remarkable people that work for us today. And these are all the people that where you see Devereux today is because of them. But we invested in the community, we invested in people, and things just started flourishing that way. Trusting our identity, trusting who we were, placing people that had the same shared vision as us in this industry, and that's where we started, I think, gaining a little traction and ground.
Mm-hmm. Was there any designs or just like inspiration or anything in those early years that felt more like the Devereux today, that you were getting a lot of pushback, or not even able to get pitched in those early years?
Everything we had was relatively easy for wholesale. Is a different beast in golf for people watching or wanting to understand what golf wholesale is. It's designing product for property of left chest, left sleeve real estate for clubs like Pebble Beach or True North out here, right? You're making product for that, and they're putting their logos on it. So that's what all our gear was designed to do. So you sacrifice brand to get the sell in the wholesale shop, so they can have the primary real estate to sell their product. So all our gear was designed for that. Lightweight, pullovers, polos, four-way stretch, performance bottoms, joggers, and all these, I think, great fabrics and everything, but it just misses visual identity. I think, as you can see if you walk into a pro shop today, you can kind of notice that. And then we saw a big disconnect when we started investing in e-commerce, direct to consumer. We were selling more joggers for the golf course in 2018, 2019, 2020 than any other product, and we were selling probably 5% of that inventory in the wholesale. So there was this huge difference in what was taking place on e-commerce and what was taking place in the wholesale. And that started like, make our minds turn a little bit. Like, well, this product is proving to be good for a customer that we can track, identify, and message to, etc. So that's where we really went on the tear of positioning ourselves for, the end customer at the end of the day.
I've said it probably on every episode now, so people are exhausted of me hearing it. But the biggest influencer in the space right now in golf, it continues to be the buyer. Somebody that, like, from a consumer lens, they have no idea that individual even exists. But the reason why retail and these green grass accounts all look the same is because the buyers are all buying up the same stuff, exactly what you're talking about. And that's where I think some of these tastemaker brands like Devereux that are breaking through is because of what happens in the D2C scene. Like you're saying, like, was from that standpoint when you guys, I don't even necessarily say started focusing on direct to consumer regionally, like what was happening? Where did you see a lot of product or momentum around the country?
When we were focused on direct to consumer?
Yeah.
Man, we see all the movement was happening, I guess, in like metropolitan areas for our brand, from like end consumers purchasing it, and that was kind of like a little bit of a shift. I think that's not how we labeled our consumer from like day one, right? I think it wasn't like this, a guy in Los Angeles or a guy in New York City, because we didn't really think that they were the ones consuming golf apparel. But they, at the end of the day, they wore, and then of course COVID just spun that into, I think like 2 times speed of that person buying that. But that's really where we were seeing like momentum when we started diving into what e-commerce was. But keep in account, e-commerce before COVID was way more difficult than it is today. Today it's you land a Shopify page just by opening up an account, where we had to build these things out back in the day. So they were extremely costly. But we were invested in it, and then trying to apply dollars to it and grow the business there. But we really saw a lot of that traction in like inner city, which was interesting for us. And I think seeing that and taking real time data from buyers versus end consumers, not buyers, helps shape your identity a little bit.
Well, and I think the way that consumers interacted with brands has changed a ton too. Like, we grew up in mall culture where you just cruising around the mall, like when you were shopping brands or exploring, it was more exploratory. Like now everything is like so goal oriented, where like I'm going to Dick's Sporting Goods because my son lost his 5th football like mouth guard. Right. So I have to go and get 9 more mouth guards just to clean us out for the rest of the year. Whereas again, back then, like everything was way more exploratory. And I think that the change now is people are obviously shopping online more. But that's where then the social credit comes in, where they're exploring these brands socially as opposed to in store or in mall. Like, how much do you think that also, just how you guys showed up and where you guys showed up, changed?
Man, I think it changed a lot. I would say, like, if a consumer today and how they act and behave, is they want something to believe in. They want something to be a part of a story in. That's why you see brands that do well, they're really good at conveying and telling a story and making you feel welcome. That's so extremely important, is that you should have investment in that messaging. When we started doing that, I think that's where you really started to see a change. Honestly, when we opened up our brand to like community and inviting people out to come share, just playing golf with us and these certain events that we do all around Phoenix, we started to gain a lot of traction, and it's the good old marketing, right? It's word of mouth, it's passing down, and then social media starts upticking, and it's more and more kind of in your favor. But a lot of that, I guess, is maybe right place, right time, honestly.
Well, and I think, was there like a collection or even a specific product that felt like it was more in line to the new direction of the brand you wanted to take it after you guys moved to Phoenix? Because obviously a lot of people might point towards like the golf asterisk hat as that being like the pivotal moment when the brand really started to directionally change.
Yeah, I think that, having a little bit of graphic interpretation that was kind of against the grain of golf was important for our brand. Honestly, at the end of the day, that's kind of like the person I am when it comes to playing golf. I love the game, but I also don't love like a lot of like the stiff rules around the game of golf. So I'm a little bit of like the anti-country club type of person. So, you know, having those messaging opportunities were big for us. And I think we showcased that with, you know, with that golf and asterisk, but also we were making like these insanely absurd polo shirts that we were ripping soccer jerseys from like Man U or Liverpool and just throwing them on bodies. And I think that was just a cool spark of something like completely different. And the whole idea behind that was just to put something out there that was just aggressive, just to gain attention and direction. But also to those things, I mean, like where Devereux is today, it's all such an evolution that which fashion should be, I think, is you have to evolve in styling in order to continue to progress, because once you become complacent in it, you're not progressing anymore, and you're just dwindling away as a brand.
Which I would say is like when you guys went into that second era, which is like the end of 2019, 2020 through like 2023, what was the hardest part of letting go of that like Devereux proper era of the brand?
Nothing for me. Nothing was hard about that.
Yeah. I could tell. Just even like easy. Creeping back through social, I was like, there is so much more energy in what you get. And again, the social side of the brand, I think, also started to blossom in that era too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you know, it's fun if you look down our social, which I won't go look back because I think a lot of it gives me like anxieties, but I leave that body of work up there because it's important to see like where we came from, you know, where we started. It's a fresh reminder for, you know, for myself to see that it's not the identity of who we are today, but it was just dictated by a certain time. But yeah, it's I mean, it's completely different now, and why it's different now is because we have people here that shape the brand. We're ever evolving. We aren't like just one thing. That's what I love about what we've created is we're all walks of life that come to this brand. We have 10 guys that work for us, all that we've met through the game of golf, surrounded by golf, and everyone has a different perspective of the game. And I feel like it's our job is to showcase all these different perspectives and bring it to the table the best that we can. That's just fun, you know. My brother and I made a promise to ourselves that we're not designing for the buyers, and we honestly don't care what the buyers say anymore. I could care less. We're dictating who we are, and that's the most important thing. I don't care what anybody else is out there doing because I know what that business is, and it's more dangerous than it is good, and it really stalls creativity, and that's the most important thing is for us is to be creative and be unique in this space.
Was there any like pressure in that early those pivot years from a design, either something that you guys put out where you're like, I just don't know, I want to see how people react? Or was it just going back to what you said earlier, like we just believe in our taste and we'll use these moments, I don't know, to kind of like push and pull of what's happening in the space?
It was all just to see how people reacted. I think we had our backs against the wall. We were a little bit like worried during COVID as a small brand. We were worried about our future because, you know, in hindsight, looking back, it's different than being in the moment. I think people have to understand what the moment was of COVID is that the future was so bleak, right? From a brand. Now, people spun out of that and good things happened, but it was so bleak as a brand that, you know, I think when you're faced with not a lot of hope, you're willing to throw Hail Marys. And that's kind of what we were doing at the time. And, you know, it worked out in our favor. You know, maybe we caught one of the Hail Marys down the field, and that works out. But I really think that's kind of what happened to the brand. And what we were doing was just saying, you know, F it in a way, and let's just do this. Like, let's go down, you know, screaming or whatever, type of thing. And just let our designs rip. I designed most of the product like from 2021 and prior, like all of it was designed by me, so it's all just my, you know, mind and life and growth just put onto, you know, product for people to see. So, you know, you get a lot of change in that too.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask, because that, especially again, going back to 2020 through 2023, 2022, do you feel like as an individual you learned the most about how to build product the right way, especially for the brand that you actually wanted to build?
I thought I did, yeah. I thought I knew a lot about product, and then I just hired a guy that came in and knows a lot more about product. So, you know, product is the most difficult thing in all this. You know, I watch everything that you do and all the things that you put out, and you know, in the day, like, we have in product that we're showcasing people from like your point of view, and you do a hell of a job at that, right? I think people need to understand what it takes to get to that point, to achieve product. Like, it is no easy feat. When money starts stacking up, when you have order minimums coming across the table, all these things happening, it is no easy feat, and it really, you know, then you got to be damn good about marketing and get it off the shelf, because the lifespan of product is so short. It's crazy. So your turnaround has to be quick. And fashion is honestly the worst business people get into. The money, the cash flow stack up is a wild game. But kind of lost my train of thought. But you know, the business of it is it's a really difficult thing, and showing people that how to build that is really something that I want to like showcase and give to people.
That, I think that is what I'm most interested in, because again, I think for people who are fans of the brand now, like, I would highly suggest to go back. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes, but just to take through themselves through the timeline of Devereux on social. There is some insane images in there. I think one of the ones that I saved, I'll probably have to send it to you, but it's you and your brother are like standing in front of an American flag, and you have like this bleach blonde hair, and you just like, the vibe of you is so different. And again, the brand is so different. That's where I go back to the learning curve from those early years to where you are now, like in terms of where your sourcing product is different, because the designs, the prints, the fabrics that you guys are using is very different. Like, the brands in my world, it's two completely different brands. And it's not as if you're starting over. It's more so if you're just honing in on who Devereux is in those like pivot years. But because so much changed, you're basically like restarting or introducing a new brand. And again, from tech packs and sampling, and again, you mentioned it, minimums, like, people just have no idea what's happening behind the scenes just to get product right. And then chapter 2 is, how do we sell product? How do we introduce it to consumers?
Yeah, it's a lot. You know, I like that you mentioned that. I know what photo you're talking about, and it's funny, but that time period, yeah, extremely different to where we are today. But you know, I think it's very important, and this is something that I'm true to, is that I don't want to delete these moments where I see other brands like delete their past history. You know, it's okay to evolve and grow and show people where you come from. You know, I love the Manners brand. I think those guys are incredible, and they're doing incredible things. And they also had a time period where they were on the same like timeline as us, and they completely switched. But they, you know, they took away what they were doing and tossed it and went the new direction, where, you know, what they were doing in the past was so interesting to me, and honestly it served as like an inspiration that I think you just need to leave those things up and show people, you know, the true identity of who we are, because we're people at the end of the day, everybody that has these companies, and we're working, and you know, we don't have it figured out from the jump, unfortunately, but you know, it's all a work in progress, everything we're doing. You know, we're not like a big PE backed brand here, we're all self-invested. So I want people to see the story, you know, whether it's cringe in the past, which it is. Like, I look at those photos and I'm a little bit cringed, but that's okay, because that's my path, that's my life, and that, you know, that's where, you know, you get to see that and kind of follow that journey, and the brand is the journey.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. I was a huge fan, because it's such a stark difference, which is awesome. Is there like, what is? Oh yeah, again, it's a completely different brand. Even the way that you guys just spoke about the brand was a lot different. Your guys' hustle is different, and then visually and storytelling, I think it really lands on the community side of stuff for sure. I guess from like your standpoint and how you design, like, how has that process changed over the years too?
That's changed Immensely. I have a few designers now that work for the brand. Thank goodness. You know, I designed so much of it back in the day, like all of it, and it's taxing to put together these collections. And I did all the sourcing and the design and the upkeep of manufacturing. You know, everything under the moon in that world I did, even to the photo shoots and marketing the product. It's extremely exhausting. Where now is we have it more systematic. We have designers. We talk about things. It doesn't come from one individual. It comes from a team here now that we're placing the product and designing it. So that world right there, having like 4 or 5 collective heads together on product is awesome, because we all get our opinions at certain things. And that's why Devereux is never just this one thing, because we value the opinions of each designer in different scenarios.
The other thing that I think a lot of people don't talk about is like the growing pains too when you're growing, which is all exciting. We call it like eustress from a psychological standpoint, but the stress that comes in and the pain points that come in when you're growing, there's also like this consistency that you see in Devereux, which is really hard to do as your team's growing and you're expanding as a brand. Like, how important has it been through the hiring process? Like, what is that like when you're building up a team?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. Those are things that I was never prepared for, was really hiring people and dealing with people. You know, I think I've been extremely blessed with the people around me. Every guy that works for me is someone that I've met that has a connection to the game of golf, whether they're brand new to the game or they've been playing since they were kids. And you know, we've just developed friendships here at the brand, and everyone speaks to the product themselves. Thank you. Just got a coffee. But the hiring process of the people is one of the hardest things. You know, we get people that reach out to us looking for jobs, or people that just fall into our ecosystems, and you know, it's really kind of like a personality mashup here for us when we bring people on, and that's, you know, maybe you see that in Instagram and social, but that's really like, that makes it all the fun over here, is having people that you love to be around, that you surround yourself with daily, and that make you better. And that's also like, that's why I wanted to be here in this warehouse while doing this interview, is because, you know, everyone here is completely equal in how we work and how we pitch in and what we do at Devereux. Like, I will be at the front of the shop and to the back of the shop packing orders. You know, that's just the brand, you know, ethos over here.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like the brand now is a mirrored version of a collective group, yes, as opposed to just you and your brother in those early years. And you've obviously like gotten older, you have kids now. Like, how much has the mirrored version of the collective group either inspired or influenced the direction of the brand?
100%. Because that's the most authentic place you can start from, is to like build a brand, is from the people that are the brand. So they influence everything we do. You know, I have my hand on like certain things, like in terms of like messaging and a little bit of branding, but in terms of like for instance, like our social media guy, Chino, which you probably like connected with, is, you know, is an incredible dude, and we just let him rip it on Instagram however he wants. Like, there's no schedule, it's just all organic, because I think that's the way that social should be performed, is from a generally just social standpoint. Yeah, it's important to be extremely authentic in apparel, I believe, and all of our guys shape everything that comes out the door.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a quality that I think is really hard from a leadership perspective is the ability to like let go of certain things. Like, how has that process been for you, or even your brother specifically? And as you guys have grown, there's pieces of the brand that you have to let go, going back to you having trust in what you guys are doing. Is that a similar process?
Yeah, that's a real thing. Yeah. Letting go is not easy, right? But, you know, I think anybody that would be successful at business understands how to let go. You know, there are people that are dedicated to what you want to, your vision and what you want to build, and you have to give that trust. If you never give that trust, then you're never going to see growth. I think that's something that, you know, my brother and I understands. I know there's certain times me myself, like I want to like do certain things, but I always have to remind myself to just like step back a little bit, you know, trust who we hire, what the brand is, and let it go. And I've been doing that a lot in the last, you know, probably this year, really stepping back, and it's really cool because I see what my team creates and what they come up with, and I'm excited about it, like, because I'll see it for the first time when it's like final product, just because I want to see how everything goes without like me having my hand on it. And of course it's always, you know, delivered excellent, and that's great for us. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a very necessary thing to let go of a lot of like your fingerprints on stuff.
Well, and I think it goes back to like the accountability that you guys hired like really great individuals that bonded well with the team, because again, going from like the pivot years of 2020 through 2023, when things were like, you guys are trying to find your lane at the end of the day, and then these last 2 years it feels very, I don't want to say comfortable, but like when I see you guys either out in the wild or a new collection that drops, like it just feels like Devereux. There's a consistency in that again is really hard, especially now with just how loud everything is in the space. Which again, I think it's just a testament to what you guys have been able to do internally that a lot of people don't see on the outside. Is anything that you can like speak to that?
Yeah, you know, at first I appreciate that, you know, because it is extremely difficult to constantly turn over product and make it feel like authentic and represent your brand. Even though, you know, like you mentioned earlier, like people have their mood boards, and that's easy to achieve, but like the reality of doing these things is not so easy. Like, you know, when you have to pay money or get locations for shoots, let's just talk about photo shoots and stuff, like that is, you know, what you always envision is never the outcome of what you're putting out. So, you know, for us, to me, it's as long as we have the people that represent our brand in the imagery, and we have like our guys on set, our brand is going to push through, you know, everything that we're doing. And it is really about like having our team always there, always talking about product, always showcasing like a cool, comfortable, confident attitude. And I think that's so just extremely important in what we're doing. But man, it's hard to continuously like represent like your brand, like you stated, and keep pushing that out. And that's to all the guys at this company, you know, the hats off to them that get that done.
From a creative process, are you working in the future and then pitching to your team, or is it more of a collective, everybody's kind of like moving forward directionally at the same time?
Let's give the reality of our golf business like to date. I think it's fun. Where we are, like where we came. So like, are we working toward the future? Yes. But we've had to do leaps and bounds to get to the point to be ahead of product and work for the future. And that's by hiring a bigger team and bringing people in. We are still a brand that works, you know, collectively to get stuff done tomorrow, you know, turning over assets and product and all this. So it's a juggling act for me. And I think it's very important too, is that you have to have your future outlook, right? But the future outlook is what I think is boring fashion, because it's not very like relative to what you like in the moment, because it's placed in the future. So we can't really like dictate what that trend or style truly is. We have a idea of that, right? I like to be extremely reactive to our designs. That's why we load up like capsule collections and random drops and all these things, because, you know, it's fun. It's what apparel should be. You know, it's thought-provoking, it's fashionable, putting out cool graphics like based off of something that is relevant, you know, I think sticks with the consumer longer, and it's important like side of our DNA at the end of the day. But, you know, we work to the future, yes, but we have been operating as a very like JV type of business for the longest time, and we're starting to get our ducks in a row. And it's 13 years, and I say that, but I mean, I wonder if that's just the reality of companies and brands and everybody hides behind that, or or we're just way behind the curve. But, you know, we finished fall 25, we launched, you know, next month, and then we just finished our spring 26 collection like last 2 weeks, and that's all coming in, landed samples, all that. And then we're working on like a waste management collection, masters collection in the moment, and then plus fall 25. So these are, all things that we're working on today to really try to get ahead of it. And it's a lot of design, it's a lot of product. So we're trying to be future based, I guess.
It is the ultimate multitasking scenario, which again, from the outside, that people are not close to product or are working in different categories just on a professional level, like they just have no idea what's happening behind the scenes, because it is this juggling act of creative and operations. And operations takes years, especially for footwear. Apparel usually is anywhere from months to like a half a calendar year. And then also, even going back to like the conversation we had in wholesale, I've talked about this a little bit, but people don't understand when you internally feels like a big win if you get a big PO, like a product order placed, but then you don't get paid for 90 days, 180 days. So then you're sitting in this like weird operational space where you're, again, trying to think about the future, but you see yourself in the red knowing that a win is coming, but it's this weird juggling act that, again, I don't think has been necessarily articulated the best, especially in like the fashion sense.
Yeah, I think that those are fun points to bring up, but you're absolutely right. You place so much cash flow into future product, right? Like we have already ordered like spring 26, right? So all that cash is locked up in deposits, and like a factory wants a certain deposit until you order multi-millions, and you're probably fine. But they want a deposit, so your cash is locked up there. But you also have to market to present day, and you have to have dollars to spend to marketing for present day. So, the cash flow in fashion is horrible from a business standpoint. But, we've gotten to a point where we can kind of ride out those waves, which is really nice. So it alleviates a lot of stress, especially when it comes to design and product placement for us. And that's been really nice and helps ease up operations. But to get to that point is, I think that was probably one of the most scary things when we were operating that way a few years ago, was spending so much money on future orders and then looking at current and being like, well, we don't have a lot of dollars to market with. And it was just kind of always that cycle. And that's extremely difficult. And then marketing is so risky, right? You don't want to spend a ton and it miss, and then you're just further and further behind. Mm-hmm. So it's a tough game. It's like I said at the beginning, it's not for the faint of heart at all.
Yeah, and there's such a lack of consistency. Yeah, there's such a lack of consistency right now, which is wild, especially when you're focused on D2C. Going back to collections, and specifically these last 2 years in terms of design, if we did get an opportunity to peek at like your guys' mood board, even your mood board specifically, is there anything that would surprise us? I think like one of my favorite collections that you guys have ever done was the Gorp drop, just because I think it was, and this goes a testament back to you just being relevant when I had been hammering the cross category like opportunities that exist in trail. And then it was like a couple weeks later, you guys dropped that. I was so hyped because you were one of the first to do it in a way that was really tasteful and intentional. But yeah, I guess from that standpoint, a two-part question, like, is there anything that exists in those mood boards that has happened that we would be surprised of, or is there just anything that is on your guys' mind that you're excited about?
Yeah, I think we're at a point of our design where we're really just trusting our brand and still carving out like that ultimate identity DNA. To your point, like releasing just the Gorp stuff is so important to our brand, that these are just building blocks of testing product and seeing a product out there to say like, these were wins in Gorp, and we can kind of like cross-pollinate these into, some more of the golf fashion that is, more direct to consumer. That's really important to have like these capsules that serve as data testing for the brand, and that's really why we do them. We do them for that, and then one of my designers at the time really wanted to do a Gorp collection, so I was like, "Then do a Gorp collection, dude. Like no one's holding you back." So he whipped that together, and it was kick-ass, because it was completely different, and it wasn't what anybody else was doing at that moment. The only trouble with that, the Gorp collection is that your true identity? Not so much. I think from the standpoint of us being like, outdoor loving people, or, fabrications that can cross pollinate back into like what we're doing today, is more the identity. But we can't like, hang our hat just on making like this Gorp golf collection, because, although it may appear like super cool, there's realities of how does it sell at the end of the day that also dictate the driving force behind all of this. But I think where the brand is now, and if you look at our mood boards and all these things, I think there will be a little bit of surprises to people. I think we've toned back some variety of designs, because our true goal is to really appeal to a lot of people and serve my mission is really to give great product for what I think is an extremely good price and offering that we're doing with the brand. And it's extremely difficult, is to make good product for an affordable price. That's the hardest thing in fashion. It's easy to put a jacket online for $250. Like, I could do that tomorrow. I could design the craziest cool jacket and put $250. But we don't do that, because our mission is to grow this game, and golf is already out here. It's stupid the prices that we're paying for a round.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to break these people's bank by paying $250 a round, then having to pay $125, $150 for a polo shirt, because we know the true cost. And it's important to always make product that is affordable for golfers first and foremost. But our collections are going to be a little more dialed back in a lot of the wearable products, which are polo shirts and some of the outerwear and layering. And then we're still going to come in with kind of our attitude and designs on headwear and head covers and graphic t-shirts that we're really known for in the space, and showcasing our personality there. And we're currently very inspired by home. That's like our biggest inspiration is showcasing to people what Arizona golf is. I think I had a big learn when we did the Paris fashion show. And what people loved about the brand was the identity of Arizona and the way that they get to see that and view that. Like, back to Manners, like, those guys shoot incredible photography. It's because they're on a cliff in Iceland. Like, you can't miss with that. It's absolutely beautiful, right? It's stunning. Like, you could be in a lot of product and that looks really cool. I mean, kudos to them. But same thing for us is like, let's just show people our home and what golf means from us and Arizona. And let's also take that from imagery and place it into product. So we're really showcasing a lot more like Southwest design throughout our product that I really hope will be well received. And then we're just having a big uptick in SKUs across the board, from layering pieces, a lot more bottoms, and just bigger tops programs that we're rolling out.
And I feel like you guys also show like your personality and flex it through a number of like collaborations too. Some that have like existed for a few years, and then even like what dropping on Friday with Sugarloaf, like to be able to stretch out. And again, it goes back to celebrating and telling the Arizona golf story, which again, golf is now more of like a destination thing. Like, people are really interested in not just exploring, going back to mall culture, like they're exploring different courses all across the country or even around the world. Because like one of my favorite products too that you guys designed, it wasn't simply by any means, but the Devereux Golf Valley with the scorpion hat. Like, it's a great design hat, but it just screams Arizona, and it feels like a true Devereux product. Just stuff like that. And even going back to the price point too, I want to say it was $35 for a hat, which everybody else in the industry is charging upwards of $80 for hats, and like you said, $150 for polos. It's one of the great affordable brands in the category right now, for sure.
Yeah, that's very important to us too. Is to be that, what you just said, to be an affordable brand. Cause you got to go back to like what the mission is. Like, of course, like, yeah, we want a healthy business, but at the end of the day, like, we want people to come experience playing golf and feel comfortable doing it, and that's why our brand exists, is for people to do that, and we want them to also afford it, right? And that's just so important for what we're doing.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask too, because the other, I would say, arguably one of my second favorite collections, even this year, is the kids drop that you guys did, and that goes back to just mirroring your guys's collective lifestyle that you're living now. Like if your kids, maybe they've already asked this, but if they asked why you created the brand, like what would your answer be to them?
I'd probably just say I don't know to my kids. They'd be annoying me at the moment. That's a big question, right? You have kids, right?
Yep.
How many do you have?
I have 4.
Okay, you got 4. I'm 3, so you're winning. I think I'm stopping at 3. But I don't know what I would tell my kids, because I always just want to give my kids the most like healthy version of chase your dreams story that I can give them without all the beat downs that you've taken along the way. So I would always just tell them, I started this because it was something that I loved, and I trusted myself in doing, creating a brand out of nothing. That's what I would give them, and then I'd encourage them to go do the same in their own life. But man, that kids collection was fun, but shooting kids is like photographing kids is the worst thing in the world.
Oh, it's insane.
It's
You've done family pictures, I'm sure.
I hate family pictures. When my wife brings up family pictures, I get visibly mad. I'm like, we're not doing that. It's a waste of money.
We're literally arguing about it right now.
It's so frustrating.
Asked me yesterday. Yeah.
I feel for you on that one.
Yeah,
but the kid stuff it's just fun. Those are just rips that we do that are just sparked by the moment, and that's really where we have our biggest wins, are things that aren't so well thought out. There are more things that are just reactionary collections that we throw together, because I think those collections come from the places the most authentic intentions.
What do you think? Two questions. I know you got a hard stop, but what do you think is like the biggest sacrifice you've had since building the brand, now that we're on like a 10-year run now?
Man, the hardest thing is life. With the kids, family, those things are not getting in the way of the brand. My brand's getting in the way of my family, I should state it that way. And it's the balance of that and being present every day with my family that I have to like put out there and be be completely present with them, because as you know, it goes by fast. That's the hardest thing, is juggling working and family for me at the moment. And my brother also has 3 kids, so he's done it. His kids are more grown up than mine, but man, it's hard. That is not easy. So kudos to you for being able to do and all your successes and having 4 kids. Like, my hat's off to you. That's and for any dad that may be listening or watching, like, it's possible, but it's hard as hell.
No, I was talking to Tisha Allen the other week, and I said that the older that I've gotten, the more that I've just figured out that nobody truly knows what they're doing. Everybody's kind of figuring things out on the fly. Some people look like they're excelling in other areas, but we're at the end of the day, we're just trying to figure it out literally every day as the days go by. And just because of that nature, stuff flies by. Long days, very, very fast years, though.
What they say, long days, short years.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it flies by. I would say family is the hardest thing, but I think just like on a business note, the hardest thing is like making the business make sense from a monetary perspective, because we're self-invested, man. We don't have any outside money thrown at this thing, so I feel like our money has a little more value to us, and no one's spurring along this beast, and that is really a difficult thing, is understanding how we're going to spend our money to be like the most efficient way of spending this money, and growing this brand. We're all just hardworking dreamers back here, so it's difficult to handle the monetary aspect of it.
Well, I think, again, just as a consumer and someone who really truly does care about brand, that nerds out about that stuff, like, I can feel that in just the conversations that I had with the people behind the brand, conversations like this, and then just digesting the brand through content and product too. Like, you feel that there's intentionality there that doesn't exist throughout the industry. for what you guys are doing. So kudos to you guys. The last question that I ask everybody on the way out, what's the story behind the one item in your closet that you'll never get rid of? And what does it mean to you? This could be golf or golf adjacent, whatever that item is.
I have a John Starks jersey.
Ooh.
In my closet. It hangs in my closet. I absolutely hate John Starks. And I have that jersey in there because he was such a villain in the NBA, I felt, like in the playoffs. And I found the jersey one day and I was like, I got to buy this, dude. This guy like ruined my childhood at times, but
tormented me.
I love this guy's like audacity and grit and grind and like the person that he was on the court. And that jersey hangs in my closet and I see it every morning. And it just reminds me to be, in a way, kind of just be that guy. You're not the starting five. You're going to go out there and you're going to earn your keep type of mentality. So that's like the piece I have in my closet that always reminds me.
Oh, that's insane. I love that. You'll have to send me that picture.
Yeah, I got some photos of it.
So yeah, I mean, again, super appreciate the time. Definitely want to reconnect and have another conversation just about process and whatnot, but really big fan of what you guys are doing. Is there anything you want to shout on the way out, what people should be paying attention to, what's coming up?
Well, we can shout, the Ryder Cup, Go Team USA. Hopefully we get this one for the home team, but we have our collection with Johnny Walker, which the Spirit of Cup in New York. So we'll be out there Ryder Cup with them. That is like a bucket list. So these are the fruits of labor, which are awesome. Shout out to Johnny Walker on that, and then shout out to working with Sugarloaf. I know that you guys are partnered in Sugarloaf and Pro Shop and Skratch. They're an incredible team. I'm really excited to see how that collection goes because it's two worlds colliding in a way. I feel like Sugarloaf is really preppy and East Coast, and we're kind of a guard down type of brand that has a little more like attitude. And I think the convergence of that is going to be something really cool and really well received in the golf market. So those are the two shout outs that I have, the Sugarloaf and Johnny Walker for this month. And shout out to you.
Love that.
Shout out to you for I followed you from the start. So there were guys before you that were doing a similar thing, and you have executed it very well, and you articulate product drops and product to people that is very digestible, and you're able to break down this knowledge and showcase a side of golf that I think is definitely needs to be seen from like the business of this isn't just product, but these are businesses behind this. And I think you're number one in the game right now. You're at the top of the list on doing that. So keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing, man.
Man, appreciate that. All love. But yeah, same to you guys. Keep grinding. Maybe we'll bump into each other in New York.
Yeah, we will. We'll figure that out.
Awesome. All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe button and drop us a quick review. It helps us keep the conversation going and growing. For more golf fashion, follow us over at Skratch and Golf Projects. We're always serving up style and stories that make this game what it is. And if you're hungry for even more, head over to Skratch.golf, where our collective stories live. Until next time, dress well and play fast. Peace.